This is Canada Reads American Style, featuring two friends who love Canada Reads and Canadian literature. Welcome our host Rebecca from Michigan and Tara from Ontario.
Hello and welcome to Canada Reads American Style, although I feel like I should say welcome back to Canada Reads American Style. I'm Tara and I'm here with Rebecca. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, Tara. I am happy to be back, but I am thankful for that long break.
Yeah, we took a bit of a break after week of Canada Reads, so at the end of March, because Canada Reads is a lot of work. We love it, but it drains us.
Yeah, it is a lot of, for 4 nights in a row, plus actually stuff beforehand. And then even after when we chat with Ali Hassan, who's the host, it's a lot. It's a very intensive time. And also, I don't know if you realize this, we had talked before about taking a break. When you and I started, I feel like it was 2021 that you and I started together, January of 21. We have not taken a break at all, really.
No.
Since then. So we really needed, I think it's been about 5 weeks. I feel like we just needed that break to just step away and, read and live life.
Yeah, I agree. So on that note, did you do anything in those 4 to 5 weeks that we've been away?
Yeah, I love that Canada Reads is in March because my birthday month is April. So I went to Chicago, met up with a friend of mine, and we had a blast. And I just have to say, on my birthday, we went to our favorite Greek restaurant, Greek Islands in Chicago, and I had vegetarian moussaka. And I'm just telling anyone, if you live in the Chicago area, I'm sure you already know, but if you go to Chicago, let's put it that way, have the vegetarian moussaka. It freaking melts in your mouth. It is so delicious. And it's one of my favorite things, and I can't get it. I can't usually find it elsewhere in the Midwest, really. And then we also did that flaming, I think it's Saganaki cheese. Oh, I've never had it. And
so good.
Oh my God, that was so good. Yeah. And then we also did a crime tour in Chicago. So I got to see where the St. Valentine's Day massacre occurred. And the only reason I want to bring this up really quickly is when I was a kid, I saw a movie or something about Al Capone or whatever. And I was so fascinated by it. I went to the public library and I started checking out books about Al Capone. And I know it's such a weird thing. I was such a weird kid, but I loved nonfiction back then, right? So I was so excited then to see where it happened because I thought it really connected my initial love of Chicago because of that whole mobster, mystique and everything. So that was actually a lot of fun. So,
very cool.
How about you? What'd you do during this break?
Oh, I actually got physically away for a couple of days too. And I went to Point Pelee National Park near Kingsville, Ontario. So like the southernmost tip of Ontario. And I stood on the very tip, almost touching the waters of Lake Erie. I did stick my hand in. It was pretty amazing. We had the best time. We went for like 3 days and I love a road trip. So it was just the two of us, just my husband and I. So I love a road trip and we just walked around the little towns, a couple little towns. I found a bookstore in Amherstburg. So anyone who's near Amherstburg, Ontario, it's called the River Bookshop. It's a fantastic bookstore. So I loved that. And then we spent a day and a half because we spent a whole day at Point Pelee National Park, just walking around. Oh my God, it was amazing. So much so that we went the next morning before we left. And so we walked, I read, and we ate. It was pretty awesome.
Okay, that's the triple in life. That's the best. That's the best thing. Now, when you were you there during migration? During any of the migration, all those, what do you call I can't think of the little birds.
Yeah, no, I don't think it had yet started. So, because we saw lots of birds, but there weren't a lot of people there at the time. And once, I think when we were in the information center, one of the workers was talking to another woman and she was like, "Did you see a lot of birds?" And she was like, "No, not a lot of birds here yet." So I don't think the migration has started.
I think it's warblers, right? Is that who it is that comes through, the warblers or something? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not sure.
But I feel like the following week, which would have been the last week in April, first week of May. I feel like this last week or so, it's really started there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But
The
regardless,
other
we loved it.
The other thing I just want to mention about Peely, which is so funny, is that when you get to that tip and then they have all those signs posted about do not go in the
Yes.
water, how dangerous it is. And then when you're there, you're looking at it. And I even said to myself, I was like, how bad is it really? But I mean, people die there, so
Yeah.
we know it's bad. But it's weird because it doesn't look sinister, but it really is
Yeah.
because of the way the waters meet and blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah. It's amazing.
it's beautiful.
I
Yeah.
loved it. I'm already planning to go back next year. Like, I love it there. It's so amazing.
I want to go back because I did it in the winter and it was just so beautiful in the winter. Oh, I have such great photographs from that. But I want to do it where I can like walk the boardwalk and all those other places that you can go. I haven't done that before. So
Yeah. It's fantastic.
we had a great time off, both of
We
us. Yeah.
did. We did. But what we're here for is to talk about books. So this is our
Yes.
monthly book chat. So this is our May book chat. Let's start it off with, what are you currently reading, Rebecca?
I am currently reading One of Ours by Willa Cather because I'm in that book club, that online book club that the Book Cougars, Chris from the Book Cougars kind of started. And they started in January, but I didn't hear about it till later. And so I kind of jumped in and I wanted this one to be my first book. And I'll be honest with you, it's like a World War One. I think it's now I'm not sure, can't remember the title because I've been reading other things along with it too, but I can't remember the subject, I should say. And it's about a young man who is going to go off to war. So I won't go into it in great detail because I'm still not 100% sure. I'm not that far into it yet. However, the other thing that I'm reading is the Oxford Soju Club, and the publicist reached out to us and asked if we were interested in reading it. And I thought it was already out because I had read some buzz about it, but it turns out it doesn't come out till September. So that sort of surprised me. But here's basically uh, what it says. When North Korean spy master Do-ha Kim is mysteriously killed in Oxford, his protege, Johan Kim, chases the only breadcrumb given to him in Do-ha's last breath, Soju Club Dr. Rue. In the meantime, a Korean American CIA agent, Yuna Choi, races to salvage her investigation of the North Korean spy cell in the aftermath of the assassination. And then there is another one, Jihoon Lim, an immigrant from Seoul in search of a new life. And all three of them, their lives are going to converge, and there's some kind of connection that all three of them will have with each other. And I started it. I wasn't going to start it right away, but I just thought, what is this? And I got immediately immersed in it. So it's actually really good to start anyway.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
Can
How about
I?
you? Yeah.
I'm gonna Before I get into it, I'm gonna go back to your Willa Cather.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many books she's published? I know she also has a lot of short stories.
I think I kind of feel like it might be in the somewhere between 10 and 20, I think.
Mm,
I feel like yeah, I think it's a pretty large canon
yeah.
actually. I'm gonna
I
look.
didn't realize that she was so prolific. I'll be honest. I haven't read any.
I didn't either because honestly, I thought there are some of like I'd say there are like five just like total classics that everybody sort of talks about, but I just had no idea that when I started to look, I was like, oh man, she had a lot. I'm just kind of looking up how many there are, but oh yeah, she's got quite a number of short stories. There's oh gosh, I think there's more than that in short story, but one, two, three, four, yeah, 12, yeah, probably 12 standalone titles, but then there are probably 15, maybe I don't know, short story collections.
Wow.
So, and I didn't know that. So
15 short story collections.
yeah,
Wow.
something I'm doing a brief count,
Yeah.
so a quick
No,
count, but
she's
yeah.
even more prolific than I thought.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, because when I was thinking a couple years ago, I thought, oh, maybe I'll read. It's like you do with Helen Humphreys. I thought maybe I'll pick an author and just read all of their work. And then I looked up Willa Cather at the time. I went, yeah, no, I can't complete that in a year. And I wanted something that I could do in a
Yeah.
year, and that's why I ended up picking my 12 classic women authors. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. My current reads. I'm going to bring two. So the fiction I'm reading is The Immortal Woman by Sue Chang, which you have also read. So I've just started this one. It is difficult to describe, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because it goes back and forth from in time to like the Cultural Revolution in China in like maybe like the 70s,
60s.
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 Thank you.
Yeah.
And for one woman who ends up being the mother, and then fast forwards to the early 2000s to her daughter who has immigrated to the US as a student. And then it kind of comes together. I haven't reached that point yet, but so I'm finding it very interesting in terms of the history that I'm learning. The writing style is also interesting in that sometimes it doesn't clearly connect things. Like, you know what I mean? Like it seems to jump a little bit. As an example, a section I read last night, the mother, Lemay was with her brother. They were going on their way to Tiananmen Square. And the next thing I knew, her brother was like, she was bringing him home and he was all like sick or something. And I'm like, what the hell happened? So, you know, like it
Yeah.
kind of jumps, but then the way she writes, it pieces together in the writing as you continue, which I find really interesting.
Yeah. For me, I will say this,
Yeah.
when I read it, the beginning of it, it took me a while to get into it because I don't know what it was, and I'm not, I'm not an English major, so I don't know what it was about her writing style in the beginning that kind of threw me off a little bit.
Hmm.
But there's a certain point at which the story picks up for me, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I loved, and of course, no spoilers ever, but
Yeah.
I loved how it ended. I really loved
Okay.
how it ended. And I did look at other comments, and a number of people kind of agreed with me that in terms of, or I agreed with them that that beginning feels a little bit harder to process or to, I don't know. It was just kind of a weird opening, I think, in some
Yeah.
ways for me.
I will say I think her name is LeMay, the mother is a character unlike any I've read before. Like she's likable, but she's also unlikable. She is brutally strong and honest. It's just, but I think it's all to do with the nature of the situation that she finds herself in and surviving it through the Red
Hmm.
Guard and everything. It's very interesting. I'm finding the daughter completely unlikable. That doesn't stop me from enjoying a book, but
Yeah.
um, it is. I'm like, I'm looking for something redeemable in this woman. And I'm like, I'm not finding anything yet. So I'll be,
Uh,
so I'm looking forward to seeing if I can find anything.
yeah.
But anyways, I'm enjoying that. The second book is a collection of short stories. I'm super excited by this one. And it is called The Anne, with an E, ANNEthology, a collection of kindred spirits inspired by the Canadian icon, published in 2024 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lucy Maud Montgomery's birthday.
Yeah.
So it's a collection of short stories, 10, by Canadian young adult writers who were
Ooh.
challenged to answer the question, "Who's your Anne?" by the editor. So the stories were compiled by Judith Graves and edited by Robin Sutherland. And so these writers were challenged using either like the characters, plot, themes, or details from the original Anne of Green Gables to answer who's your Anne in a short story. So I've only read two. The first one was amazing in that you would never expect it. But yet there was my Anne, but in a horror story, and like horrific. Oh yeah, I can see Rebecca's face. Like
Ooh.
it is a true horror story based on when she finds the peddler and buys the hair dye to dye her hair black. Do you remember that part of it is an iconic moment
Yeah. It's in the
in
first book,
Anne.
right?
Yeah, in the first
Yeah.
book,
Yeah.
she
Hmm.
buys the hair dye to dye her to get the raven tresses that she's always wanted and ends up dyeing her hair green. So it is that, but it's horror, and my sweet little Anne does something that you would never expect sweet little Anne to do, but I loved it.
I have to get this.
Yeah, and the second story was Oh, the whole incident with Gilbert when she first meets Gilbert, when he calls her carrots, but set in she's present day teenager, but it totally works. It's fantastic. I loved it
I
because she
love this.
talks like Anne, and Gilbert would be like, "Why do you talk like that? Like, why are you?" She's like, "I read classic literature." Anyways, it's fantastic. I'm loving it.
That sounds fabulous. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah,
I just wrote that one down. I've got to get a copy of that.
yeah, it's so much fun. Okay, are we ready to start our book chat? Get
Yeah.
into our, let's say, our March April reads.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
All right. I will start with I did a buddy read with our friend Jen, and we read King Leary. And I kind of had to look it up because I read it a while ago now, and I don't remember everything in detail, but it was the winner of Canada Reads in 2008. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that. And it's basically about this character, Percival Leary, who was once king of the ice and one of hockey's greatest heroes. And now he lives in a nursing home, and his roommate is the um, like a sports writer guy, and it's about the two of them. And it's really, I don't remember a great deal about it, but I know I really liked it. I think that it was funny, it was heartbreaking, it was everything that you want in a story about old guys. You
Yep.
know what I
Yep.
mean? Because it was just a really, really good read, and I just enjoyed it so much. So I won't go into it, like I said, because I can't remember all of it in great detail, but I just really enjoyed it. And I'm sure many of you out there have already read it. And if you haven't, even though it's from 2008, it's great to go back and look at some of those past Canada Reads winners, which I would like to do more of anyway.
Hmm.
So that was a nice surprise for me that I get to read that plus pick up one from the past from Canada Reads.
Yeah, that one's on my shelf. I have yet to get to it, but I will say that I had a huge crush on the author Paul Quarrington. Huge. I love that he unfortunately passed away in 2010, which is very sad, but I love all of his books that I've read, and physically I had a huge crush on that man. I even got to see him in person once, and I was just
Oh,
like,
wow.
I went with a friend and both of us were like, wowzers. We're he was so charismatic. Like I think he even ended up getting singing or something during the reading or something. I
Wow.
don't know. I remember just we loved it. I loved
I
him.
I
Loved him.
love that about having a
Yeah.
crush on an author.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I
Like it
love
wasn't
that.
just like, oh, I admire his writing. I'm like, no, that man's hot. I really loved it.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Oh
And I
my
loved
gosh.
his writing. I didn't love his writing because
Yeah,
he was good looking. It was just like a
right.
little bonus. Like
It
I'm
was
like,
a
oh
Yeah, it was a
yeah,
bonus.
it was a
All right, I like
bonus.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
what's your first book?
Okay, let's move on. I'm all flustered thinking about him because I loved him. So sorry. We're recording this early. Maybe we shouldn't have. Anyways, I'm going to bring my first book that I read was Blackwood's Blue Sky by Eowyn Ivey. So Eowyn Ivey is the American writer. She wrote Snow Child. So this is her
Oh,
latest book. I love books set in Alaska. I don't know why. I just do. So it's like catnip. If it's set in Alaska, chances are I'm going to read it. Oh my gosh, I love this book. Although it is heartbreaking. It's
mhm.
very sad. Essentially, you have Birdie, who is a young single mother, and her daughter, Emmeline, I think it's like 5 or 6 at the time, and they live in a small town in Alaska. And Birdie is just trying to make ends meet. She works as a waitress in the I'm going to say resort, but like a hunting resort kind of in Alaska kind of thing. But she's always dreamed that she's destined for more. I think a little quote is and Grandma Joe started calling me Birdie. She said all I ever wanted to do was fly, even if I wasn't good at it. So Birdie starts a relationship with Arthur. So he's another member of the community, but he's a recluse. He is involved in the community and that he goes to the restaurant and stuff, but he's very much on his own. They strike up a relationship. Birdie makes the decision to go live with Arthur in his cabin, which is completely off-grid, and she takes Emmeline with her. And that's all I'm going to tell you, because it goes from there. I will say there is elements of fantasy in this, having to deal with Arthur. There's a bear story in this as well, but essentially it's comes down to when we make decisions based on our own happiness rather than what we think is best for others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I loved it. Oh, it is tragic. I will, it's not a happy ending, but it's so good. I love her
Yeah.
books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
My next book is one that has been out for a year, and usually I read them pretty quickly, but I also like to hold on to this author's books because she comes out with one about every couple of years, and so I just somehow anyway, it's Sara Paretsky's latest book for her V.I. Warshawski series, Pay Dirt. And one of the things I love about V.I. Warshawski's series is that, and I believe it started like in the mid 80s, but they're always topical. Like I always learn something that I didn't know when I read VI, or I should say Sara Paretsky. In this particular book, there is maybe I don't want to give that away if anybody wants to read it. Yeah, I think I'll just keep that to myself and I'll talk about it just among friends. But there is something that happens in the book that is absolutely front and center in politics today. And I didn't know why it was important now. It seemed like a weird thing that's coming up. And then she explains why. And I was like, son of a gun. These scumbags, I'm telling you what, they'll always find a way to screw us and make a buck. And that's always kind of VI's books are always, or her stories are always kind of, related to some sort of financial benefit that some corporation or some rich people are making. And so I think that's one of the things I love about them as well, is that they're not really, people do die. There are murders in the stories, but it's usually, it's really about the big guy versus the little guy, probably that's like the theme of her mysteries, really. But what was interesting is she has a new book coming out and she's writing about an older female because she's 70 in her 70s now. And VI, of course, is staying around somehow like in her early 50s, I think, at this point. But she's writing a story, a mystery about an older female, like retired CIA or something like that. And I thought, oh, I can't wait for that one to come out because I just love books with older female characters.
Yeah.
And I just think this sounds it'll be fascinating. It's her writing, it's her style, it's what I love about her. So yeah.
Yeah, me too. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in her writing, but to go back, like it's like 20 books, right? Or at least it's got to be. So it's like making a commitment at this point.
Yeah.
20 books into a series is a little difficult for me at the moment, but I would love to read that one.
Yeah, and it's why I mean, I will bring it to the podcast because maybe there are other fans of hers out there. But yeah, I totally agree with you because if somebody has that many books in the past, especially because let's face it, the world was different in 1985 and things may not hold up, from that long ago when it's sort of a pop culture kind of titles. And so I get that. But I will say, even if you just pick it up at some point in the middle, even I always get something out of her books that I just go, God bless, I did not even know that. And then I have to do a deep dive into it. And it's always fascinating.
Nice.
And she's really, an outspoken protester of the way the world is. And so of course that's why I love her as well. And it's set in Chicago, my favorite American city. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm bringing a short story collection next, and it is Notes Towards Recovery by Louise Ells. We've featured Louise's most recent book, right? You've read it. I can't remember the title right now. My sister.
I can't remember the title either, but we will certainly put it in the show notes.
Yes. Anyways, this is from 2019, her short story collection, Notes Towards Recovery. Oh my gosh, more people need to read Louise. I know you said the same thing when you read her
Mhm.
most recent book, and I'm going to say it again
Loved it.
now. Please check out her books. So this a short story collection. It revolves around, looks into grief and loss in every story. So even the first one, I think I sent her a message after I read the first short story, and I'm like, gut punch. Like I'm like, that
Oh,
was heartbreaking. It was so good. So, and at the center of each of the story is a woman, which I also love. She also creates a great sense of place. Most of them take place in Ontario, but there's also a little East Coast appearance there. And it's just, I really like stories, any kind of writing that has a sense of place. So I found she also does a great job of that.
yeah.
Anyways, check it out.
Yeah, I can't remember the title of the book I read, but
I
you're
know.
right, Sisters in the title, but we like I said, we'll put it in the show notes, but that one, I loved that book. I thought that was fabulous. So, I do look forward to reading this one as well.
Yep. I feel like I should, but you go, What's next for you?
Yeah, and if you want to, you can look up that title just so we can say it
Yep,
on
I
air
will.
too as well. So, yeah, my next book is Looking for Smoke by K.A. Cobell, and this is a YA title, and it was so funny. I came across her. I don't think I was following her on social media, but I somehow came across her account, and she said she had a book to pre-order, and that if you pre-ordered it, you would get one of these there's a set of 4 enamel pins of the main characters in the book, and you would get a free enamel pin. So I was like, I'm in. So I mean, I read their subject matter and I went, yeah, I'm in. So I pre-ordered the book and it came out last year, but I thought, dang, I wish I'd have read it sooner, but it was fabulous. And it's basically about these 4 characters. They're all indigenous. I believe it's set in, I want to say Montana. I'm pretty sure it's Montana. And one of the main characters, her sister 3 months earlier has gone missing. So it's talking about the subject of missing and murdered indigenous women and girls in Two-Spirit. So it so her sister is missing. But then they all go to this annual powwow and another girl a girl is murdered. And now it's like,
Mm.
who did it? Is it connected to her sister being missing? Um anyway, even though, and I say this knowing that lots of people read children's and teens books and everything, but it's really good for adults. I'm not kidding you. And I always say that in mysteries, I rarely ever get it right the first time, like who I suspect. So yes, in the book, I suspected everybody at one point or another. So ultimately, I look at it and go, I was right
You're right.
because I suspected everybody. But it's really good because there's definitely, oh, I don't even want to say that. I don't like to give any spoilers for mysteries and things like that. Well, really anything. But I really enjoyed it. I loved the characters. The pin that I got, I I love 2 characters, there are 4. I love 2 of them a lot. And when I went back after I read it, I went, "Oh yeah, which pin did I get?" And then I looked and I was like, "Ah, I wanted one of the other 2." But it's like, it's okay. It's still beautiful. I'm happy to have it. It's a nice reminder that I read the book and I did enjoy it. And I look forward to whatever she writes in the future because I do think she does a nice balance of it's a YA book, but it would absolutely be something I think
Hmm.
mystery readers, adult mystery readers would enjoy as well. And also for younger readers who, if they don't know about the missing and murdered women
Hmm.
and indigenous women and girls in Two-Spirit, they don't know anything about it. It's a nice introduction to the subject matter
Yeah.
because within the story there's like a podcast and so they talk about like the statistics and they kind of throw in some things and it's a really nice way of bringing that subject
Mm.
to the forefront for younger readers but for everybody.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, I'm bringing fiction. I've mentioned this book before, but I had not read it because I saw the author talk at Eden Mills last September, and it is Our Green Heart, The Soul and Science of Forests by Diana Beresford-Kroeger. She's a biochemist, a botanist. Oh my God, what is she not? She's like, look into the woman. She's got like a huge resume. She runs her own little not a forest, but kind of like she has a huge property in which she's just testing different plants and trees, native plants and trees to see how they grow and stuff like this. She's fascinating. I dare you to read this book. and not want to plant a tree by the end of it. You're going to be
Mm.
like, sorry, wondering what tree and where can I plant it? Because I've done the same. Even after just hearing her speak, my mom
Yeah.
turned to me and she's like, obviously you're planting a tree next year. And I'm like, obviously I am.
Yeah.
So I have to
Awesome.
get on that actually, because I don't know, is this the time of the year that you would plant a tree? Maybe.
Yeah, we planted a tree for my dad last year. It was in April.
Okay.
So
So yeah,
kind
I
of
got
once
to
the
get on
cold
that.
weather stops. Yeah, you could
Yeah.
plant it. Yeah.
Okay. So, just quickly, so due to a full Druidic education that she received as a child in Ireland, so I just did a quick little check on the Druidic education. It's like a fully encompassing kind of education that brings together. It's a communal thing. It's the whole community is involved in it. There's a lot of I erased my my Google search, a lot of learning verses as a way of maintaining the knowledge that's passed down to you because it's an oral tradition, and it
Oh.
links everything together, like the natural world with I'm going to say the human world, and our learnings and everything is linked together. So that was the basis as a child for her education. And then she went on to become a biochemist and a botanist, and she's amazing. Anyway, she brings this holistic approach to the science of trees. And in this essay collection, she shares how our health, both individually and as a species, is connected to the health of our forests and why trees are so damn important to us,
Mhm.
especially at this moment. It's fantastic. It's inspiring.
Yeah. Now I want to plant trees, even though I haven't read it. I want to plant
I
trees
know.
now.
See,
Oh,
it's infectious
yeah. And I
in a
can
good
think
way.
of like where I would put them. I have a lot of, I mean, not property, but I have a lot of space that I could put a tree.
Hmm.
So that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I know what kind. I just have to,
Ooh,
now I
what
have to,
kind?
oh, I'm going to do a white shit, is it cedar or pine? Excuse my language. Sorry. Now I can't remember now. Now
Okay.
I have to like figure that out too. But I have like it's a tree that is native to Ontario, and there's
Mm-hmm.
actually an indigenous garden center just like in my region,
Oh,
so I can go there and get it and stuff like this. I just have to
I
boom.
love that.
Maybe on Mother's Day, that would be a nice way to spend Mother's Day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, I hope you do
I
that.
hope so too. Let's hope I've put
Oh,
it out there. Let's hope I follow through.
I'll check in with you.
Okay.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that.
Anything else for you?
Yeah, I have one last one, and I should
Yeah.
mention too, I was telling Tara beforehand that even though we had this nice long break, I read some other things that I'm just not bringing to the podcast because I just don't feel they're necessarily, I mean, they were fine, but they weren't things I would necessarily bring to podcast.
Mhm.
So I have just one more book right now, and it is Blue Horses, which I love the color, and that is a famous painting, Blue Horses by Mary Oliver, and it's a small collection of poetry. And I actually was gifted this book because, last year I had read a collection of collected works of Mary Oliver, and I went through the whole book and I really enjoyed it. And so somebody gave me this as a gift. And it was great too, because when I was reading some of the poems, I thought, I remember reading that in the big collection, right? So I want to go back and see which ones, how many of these matched and made it into the collection of her,
Mm.
or of the collected works. But I want to just, if you pick up this book, I want to just highlight a couple of the poems that I really, really loved. And it was interesting because when I posted it to my Instagram, I don't get that many likes or anything like that. And that's fine. I don't do it for that reason. But this one, I ended up with like 32 likes. And I was like, oh, and then a number of comments from people. So, and then messages about how much people love this collection. So I thought, oh, this really resonates with people. So if you're going to pick up a book of poetry, pick up Blue Horses, especially if you're like me, where poetry doesn't necessarily, it's like not the top of my list. You do a great job, Tara. You're really putting poetry into your regular rotation of books. I don't really do that. I still struggle sometimes with it, but Mary Oliver is very accessible for the average person like myself. But anyway, so here are the couple of the titles that mark this down so that if you want to pick up this book, these are my favorites. If I Wanted a Boat. As soon as I read it, I got about certain part way into the book and I went, that's my poem right there. I
Mhm.
loved If I Wanted a Boat, and then Watering the Stones, which was really beautiful. Oh, love that one. And then the title of the book is Blue Horses. And this one is the title of the poem itself is Franz Marc's Blue Horses. And he was a real person. I think this is his painting, and he was killed in World War One, I think. A piece of shrapnel hit him and he died. And so this is his poem. And I it's funny too because I loved the poem before when I read it in the collected works. And then when I looked up I said, who's Franz Marx? I don't know who that is. And then I looked it up and went, oh my gosh. And so it's a really beautiful poem in honor of him. And so those are my top 3 out of this collection, but I really enjoyed it. And I think going forward in the future, I want to read more like collections of poetries or anthologies so that I can be introduced to
Mhm.
other poets because I do want to expand my horizons a bit in this area, but I've also read stuff that I just go, I have no idea what this is talking about. I just don't get it. And it doesn't resonate with me. So, but I'm a pretty literal person. So I think that's part of my issue is that I spent all these years creating this very, fact-based person. And so sometimes it's hard for me to branch off into something as beautiful and as ephemeral as poetry.
Well, I'm gonna piggyback on your poetry because I've got some poetry too. But before I tell you about my poetry books, I'm just going to say because you were saying that I'm very good at bringing poetry. I have gotten that was a concerted effort that I started like a few years ago, and in the last year, that has fallen off. I've not read any or very little poetry
Mm,
because I picked up a poetry book. I'm not going to say what it is, and I did that. I'm like, it was a book that was not for me, but because I picked it up and I read a couple poems and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't know
yeah.
what. I didn't like the language. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. What is going on? And I closed the book and I said, okay, I'm like, obviously this book's not for me, but I didn't pick up another poetry book. Like, you know what I mean? Like I kept
Yeah.
that experience stayed in my head
Hmm.
and I did not pick up another poetry book
Yeah.
until I think this past December. So it was almost a year.
Oh, wow. Okay, I
But
didn't even realize that. Yeah, because I know you had been introducing more poetry into your life, but I didn't realize it had been that long. Wow.
yeah, it was a long time. So the one that I did pick up, I'm bringing two with here today. So this is the one that I picked up, and this one took me maybe 4 to 5 months to read. So it
Wow.
is The Weeping Degree: How Astrology Saved Me from Suicide. Poems and Prose by Kelly Watt. So she's a local author who got in touch with me and then sent me the book. It took me so long to read because it's chronological. It takes from her childhood into present day to adulthood. And the books from her childhood, or the poems, sorry, from her childhood, she had a lot of childhood trauma, like sexual molestation and abuse, grooming, and the poems were very difficult to read.
Mm.
They were so good. Like, I felt like I was there in the room with that 5-year-old girl experiencing this. Like, they were just I would read it and I'd be like, "Oh, shit." And I'd have to put it down for, like, a couple of weeks before I could pick up the next one. And then
Yeah.
I had the same experience for, like, the first section. Once you get through those poems, and they like I said, they affected me so because her writing was so good.
Hmm.
But then you get through her, like, you follow her journey through that suicide, addiction, to where she is now. And they're beautiful poems. And I'm so glad I read it, but I stuck with it. And it wasn't easy, but it was worth it in the end. So I'm
Wow.
putting that out there for people, just with the caveat that it is going to be difficult, the first few poems. But I'm so happy that I did stick with it. So this one got me back into reading my poems
Oh,
again,
nice.
which was so
Yeah.
nice. And then the other one that I'm going to bring is called No Credit River by Zoe Whittel, um, which is prose poetry, which I have that. So each one, I don't have the book, I gotten it from the library. They were longer form poems, like a single paragraph. It's a memoir based on 6 years that covered, like, during the pandemic. So they covered the loss of a relationship, the loss of a pregnancy, and then everything that we've all lost during the pandemic. So it covered the 6-year period. There's a lot of honesty, humor. She's a very funny writer. Like, I really enjoyed it. So I highly recommend this as well. I really enjoyed it. But my question when I finish, and I would, when I speak to a friend of the podcast, Holly Gaudry, that I want to ask her, Holly, is what is the difference between like prose, poetry prose, and short fiction? It was like they almost seem to, there seems
Mhm.
like a very, because if I had just picked up this book and hadn't been told that it was poetry, I would have taken it as like flash fiction or short fiction.
Yeah, that's
Like it was,
interesting.
yeah, very accessible to read. Like if you're looking for something accessible in terms of getting you into poetry, this would be a great collection.
Did you when last year when they were at Eden Mills, did you go see them? Because I did.
I did not, but I did meet them at the like at the signing table. Yeah. What did you think?
I no, it's funny, I wanted to read that book. That is and so I was really excited when I saw it was on your list. I thought, "Oh my gosh, yeah." When I saw them last year, they were so fascinating, and I can't remember I think that was when they were the on the panel also was Danny Ramadan. He
Mm,
was on that panel too, I think, and that whole panel was really fascinating. I don't remember who the other person was, I'd have to look it up, but I thought all of them I just wanted to read all of their works because they all
yeah.
were really incredibly interesting people and their stories, and it was a funny panel, like, some of it was, serious and some of it was very, very funny, and that was a great session that year. Yeah,
Yeah.
last year.
Well, I think you should pick this up. I think you
Mhm.
would really enjoy No Credit River.
Okay.
Yeah. It makes me, I haven't read any of Zoe's other books. Uh, but I will. Like they've all been on my TBR. I just haven't gotten around to it. Now I'm just going to make sure that I push it up a little bit further on my list of books to read.
Yeah.
Okay, I have just two more people, and then I'll be done. So I'm going to bring next Songs for the Brokenhearted by Ayelet Sabari. So this came out in September 2024. I read it, yeah, at the beginning of April, so bear with me. We get two timelines I believe it's the 1950s that we start off with, and we're in a refugee camp of Yemeni Jews who have been told to move in Yemen to Israel because that's where they're going to be the happiest. And they get there and they are just treated like, my gosh, not even second class citizens. They are left on their own. They're not given resources, houses, jobs, very much third class citizens, let's go with. And we meet a woman who is married, has a child, but falls in love with a man that she meets in the camp.
Mm.
And then we fast forward to present day to Zohara, who is now living in the US and goes back to her home when she finds out from her sister calls and that her mother has passed away. So that's what brings her back to her home. Her mother is actually the woman that we met at the beginning of the book who fell in love with a man in the camp. She stays with her husband. So when Zohara goes back, and I wish I could remember the name. I don't want to mess up the geography because I'm terrible with those names. When she goes back for the funeral, she reconnects with her family. She meets a nephew who she's not really had a relationship with, and he's got an interesting uh, sub story in that he's being pulled into like a terrorist group. And so it's his story and how he's going to get out of it, how she's going to help him get out of it. But what I find the main part of it is the relationship, even though her mother has passed, it's her learning about her mother, finding her mother as an individual. So learning her mother's story, not as a mother who just cared for her and was disappointed in all of her choices, but a woman who had her own life story. And it was really beautiful. There's a theme about singing because apparently Yemeni women uh, sing quite like it's just a part of their tradition, that they were told or taught to be submissive, but their songs were, to quote the book, their way of speaking their heart, having a voice. So it was a book that I wasn't sure how I would feel about, that in the end I really enjoyed. And I
Wow.
learned so much.
Yeah. That's the best.
Yeah.
That's what I really love, when you encounter something that you just didn't know anything about, and it opens that door for you to want to know more, even
Yeah,
from what you're reading.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, this was that I learned about I'm reading my notes here, about the different Jewish groups in Israel and a little bit of the history and culture of the Mizrahi Jews, or the Jews that came from Yemen, sorry.
Mhm.
So I recommend it. Very much enjoyed it. I think the same author, this was her first novel, but she has a short story collection, which I can't remember the name of, that I'm going to check out too. I've heard good things about that as well.
Mhm.
And my last book, because it would not be a book chat if I did not bring a Helen Humphrey's book.
Yay.
Yay! And this is The Ghost Orchard, which was published in 2017. It's a nonfiction, which also blends memoir. I'm going to start it off by saying that my favorite fruit is the apple. I love apples. I can eat them all the
Oh.
time. I know, I love them. But I've always felt pretty basic, because I'm like, that's such a boring fruit to have. But if Helen Humphreys is going to write a book about apples, I'm no longer basic, people. I am no longer basic,
I love
because
it.
she has made it legit. So this is a micro history of the apple. So how it was introduced into North America, the history of the orchards, the indigenous orchards. So apparently most of the orchards that were the original orchards in North America were indigenous, that
Oh,
were eventually taken over by the settlers, of
yeah.
course. However, their existence can still, there's evidence of their existence in geographical, like name places, road names. There's little hints that these were once the location of the indigenous orchards, which is pretty cool. So she does a
Yeah.
this was what, 2017. So I think around, it's 2015, 2016, maybe, that she was writing this. And so she'd done several road trips down to the US and various states to check out where these orchards were, which is very cool. I love that she did a little bit of a deep dive into the artists, the watercolor artists, who the government had a whole
Mm.
department that was just for apples. And these,
Hmm.
yes, where's my book to show you? But they paid like watercolor artists just to paint pictures of apples, the different types.
Yeah, it must have been in the 1930s, I'll bet, with that whole FDR.
Yes. It was
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
so the
yeah.
book contains a lot of the illustrations, which are beautiful. I would hold it up to you and I would grab it, Rebecca, to actually answer that question, except it's at the bottom of a pile and I'm going to make a huge mess during recording, and that would be annoying for you to edit out. So I'm not going to do that. I'll show you offline. But it's a
Okay.
beautiful book in terms of that you also have illustrations, and I love a book with illustrations. Now, in addition to the deep dive into the history of the apple, she also pairs it with memoir and her relationship,
Oh.
or her friendship with Joanne Page, who was a local author who died in 2015. So she uses somehow the apple as a way to also look into her friendship with this woman. And it's pretty beautiful. I have this, she describes one scene of them, I guess that several years ago, before the woman passed, obviously. They live in Kingston. So she and her friend Joanne one day did a hike. I can't remember, like a huge hike, but on the frozen lake, like on the like
Mhm.
across the frozen lake from point A to point B. At a point though when the ice was starting to melt, and but they just did it because they were like, we're going to do it, this is our last chance this season to do it. And she said that people were actually on the shore going, what are you doing?
Get
And
off
they
the
just
ice.
kept going. And she's like, they even made it to the local news of like, this is not what you do. See these people out on the ice, this is not the time to do this. And I love that image of these two women who just like, my God, it terrifies me, but
Yeah.
obviously they're fine, they were fine. that had their picnic lunch, and they were like, they had a mission and this is what they were doing. So it's a wonderful exploration of friendship, of her friendship with Joanne Page. Love this
My
book.
gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have been one of those people on the shore screaming at them. Get
Oh, me
off
too.
the ice.
Me too. I'm a big safety person and I
Me
am a
too.
rule follower. And I would have been
Me
like,
too.
what are you doing?
Oh my God, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Can I just say one of the things I forgot to mention when I was in
Yes.
Chicago, it just dawned on me. I got to have lunch with one of our favorite authors, Garnett, Kilberg,
Right.
Cohen. And it was so fun because last year when I was in Chicago, we tried to work out the timing. It didn't. And so this time I did. And so we had a really nice lunch at an Italian restaurant, had a nice conversation. Garnett she's just an amazing person. Not only is she an amazing short story writer, but she's just a really fun person. And so she was telling me, when I come back to check in with her again, and she would show me kind of her neck of the woods and her area where she lives. And I thought that was just such a lovely offer. And then the other thing I want to mention is while I was there, somebody that I chat with through DMs all the time, just somebody who follows my account, her name is Sara. She said, "You're in Chicago right now?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh, next time you come, let me know and we'll get together maybe." And I said, "Well, I have time like tomorrow or whatever."
Mhm.
So we went and had a coffee at a really cute little coffee place. It was so cute. And so I spent a couple hours with Sara, and I thought, this is the best of social media.
Yeah.
You are my friend and co-host because of social media. Meeting Sara, meeting Garnett, it opens up your world. And this is the best of social media. So
Yeah.
I can't fault Bookstagram in any way, shape, or form because it has brought so much great joy to my life in so many ways.
Yeah. And thank you for the reminder of Garnett, because that reminded of Louise, because the same thing when I read Louise's collection, I'm like, she's up there with Garnett in that these are two women who we should be hearing more of.
Yeah.
Like in there, because Garnett, fantastic writer. Louise's book, Lies I Told My Sister.
That's it. Oh
There
my
we go.
gosh.
So we've come full
Highly
circle.
recommend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Highly recommend that book. I love that book.
Yeah.
And I will also link to or put in the dates of interviews that we did with Garnett and also with Louise as well. So
Yeah.
that way you'll have that in the show notes.
Yeah. Okay. Phew. That was
Yeah.
like a lovely marathon. Thank you,
Yeah.
Rebecca.
We're back.
We're back. Thank you for hanging in, for joining us. And I think we're now we'll say goodbye. And then I'm going to go grab a book. Rebecca's going to grab a book at some point, maybe not immediately afterwards, but we're going to go grab our books. You grab a book and we'll keep reading, and we will see you or hear you. You'll hear us. We'll listen. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Whatever. Yeah.
Whatever. Next time. Keep reading.
Thank you for joining us on our bookish journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing Canada Reads American Style wherever you listen. You can connect with the podcast and Rebecca on Instagram at Canada Reads American Style and with Tara at On a Branch Reads. Until next time, keep reading.